Hello, today is Sunday the 23rd of July and I am in Ordesa y Monte Perdido National Park in the Pyrenees mountains on the border between Spain and France. And since I'm here, I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the geology of this valley, which I think is very special and very unique, and it's part of the reason why for a number of years now I've wanted to come here. So the national park is called Ordesa y Monte Perdido, like I already said, and it covers two stretches of land. There's the Ordesa Valley, which is that valley right there, and it has this like bent U shape. And then there's Monte Perdido, which is a peak at 3,300 and something meters. That is somewhere up there. It's really not possible to see from here, and it's much higher than where we are. So right now we are at 2,200 meters, give or take, and so it's about another 1,000 meters up. There in the distance, on the other side of those mountains that you can see the sun is shining on, is France. And yeah, so let me tell you a few things about why this valley is special. So as you may know, in geological times, there used to be this thing before the current geological era. There used to be this thing called an ice age, which ended about 10,000 years ago, which in Europe meant that pretty much everywhere north of the Alps and the Pyrenees was covered in glaciers, kind of like Greenland is today. And so Greenland today is covered in like miles and miles of ice. And essentially what this meant is that all of this that you can see here, this entire valley all the way up there, was covered in ice. And we tend to think of ice as a solid, but essentially if you think of it in geological terms, ice is more like a very hard type of gelatin. So after you get enough of it in one place, it starts flowing downhill under the force. And what happens is that it picks up rocks and rubble from underneath the glacier, and then it acts like sandpaper. It just plows away into the bedrock, creating these massive valleys, usually U-shaped valleys, or not V-shaped valleys. V-shaped valleys are formed by erosion by rivers. So these round bottom valleys that can go, this one is about, so where you see the meadow right there, there's this piece of grassy meadow, that is 1,700 meters. So that is about 600 meters below. But this, it's important to remember that this entire valley was carved essentially by an endless river of flowing ice that weighed, well, it's not even possible to imagine the weight of all the ice that pressed on the land and just basically dug into it. And another thing that I really wanted to show you is that the geology of this park is very interesting. So if you can see there, you can see these striations that are kind of like bent in this, almost like the Tao is bent in a baked croissant. So essentially what happened is that this entire place is, not all of it, but part of it is made of sedimentary rock, which means that it used to be the bottom of a large body of water, like a river, or like a lake, a huge lake or a sea bed. And as mud deposited on the bottom, and the lower layers of mud under the pressure and the passing of time, they solidified and became stone. So this is sedimentary rock, and it's kind of a soft rock as opposed to granite, which is a metamorphic rock. And what happened when the Pyrenees were formed was that this because of geological tectonic action, these layers of sedimentary rock were pushed up and then creased to form the mountains. So that's why where the glacier eroded the surface, you can still see the grain of where the layers of mud deposited like millions and millions of years ago. And the thing that you can see right here, like you can see this kind of gravel, soft gravel kind of thing, this is much more recent erosion. This is just from the weather. And but the glacial erosion is the thing that carved this valley. There's a storm front coming in. I think there's going to be a storm in maybe like 4 or 5 hours. So last night I slept in there's another hanging valley right there. It's about 100 meters below where we are. and I pitched my tent there. That's where I slept last night. And then I also climbed all the way up to Monte Perdido. And another thing, the final thing that I wanted to show you is sometimes when the rock is hard enough that the glacier cannot break it apart and carry it downhill in forming the valley, what happens is that the pebbles that are caught at the surface between the glacier and the rock scratch along the layers of the hard rock, and they create this kind of like I don't know if you can say this kind of like wavy texture over layers of rock. And you can see this in many places, especially in Norway, where there's a combination of granite and lots of glaciation, but you can see it in very many places. So whenever you see that, it's evidence of glacial action. And there's a waterfall right there. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my really short amateurish explanation of geology. And this is a really awesome place, so if you ever get the chance to travel to the north of Spain on different business, I would highly recommend that you take a day off and visit this valley. It's one of the most beautiful places I've seen in Europe. Okay, so I think that's the sign that I have to go. See you later.